This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man
is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
Remember waking up early just to catch your favorite cartoons? WESN brings back those magical mornings with Retro Saturdays.
Thus, the Powerpuff Girls were born!
Where the young at heart relive the fun. Join us every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 12 noon, only on WESN, the content capital.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
WESN.
This is the 868. My next guest is no stranger to the media. I dare say in my previous incarnation at the TTBBA and in other hats in media, he was one of those who caused me to have these gray hairs. He was one of those who constantly, through his show, always had me on learning the law and learning and continuously learning. I learned well what watershed meant through his show, because the constant barrage of complaints came by way of, should this show be aired during this time? My guest is none other than Dr. Raj. Dr. Raj, welcome to the 868.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Raj, you caused me a lot of grief previously.
I'm sure about that.
But I understood well what you were doing. I understood well what you were trying to do for and on behalf of Trinidad and Tobago. Many of the sons and daughters needed help and could not get help in the normal circumstances. Many like to ask questions from behind closed doors. What I mean by that, through a phone, nobody knows who you are.
Anonymously.
And so, to better understand Dr. Raj, I want to ask about who you are. Married?
Yes, I am.
How long?
42 years.
42 years
This
married.
year, October 7th.
And what about the academic behind this prefix doctor?
Well, from a very young age, I realized that there was a lot of false information out there when it comes to sex and sexual education. And when I say a young age, I'm talking about preteen.
Right.
And I started to do research in my high school, which was Northeastern College in Sangre Grande, and at the public library. I had a lot of friends who were older than me, and they will borrow books on my behalf, and I will look at it and read and get this education. And I always knew there was something lacking in society when it comes to sex education. I didn't know what it was, and there was no terminology as a sexologist then. It was just, you like sex or you don't like sex, or you're perverted, or things like that. And I started to do a lot of reading. There were some books that were instrumental in guiding me mentally to focus on the educational aspect of it, information and education, not the entertainment part. There were lots of entertainment stuff, although it was not as readily available then as it is now with social media and your devices and whatnot. And I took an interest in that. I realized that biology played an important part, chemistry to a lesser extent. So some of my core work at school, I gravitated towards that. And I took a decision at a very young age again to study sex, because I knew somewhere in my life later on I would have two things in life. One was the best gym in Trinidad and Tobago, which I accomplished.
Congrats.
Apollo Gym and Fitness Center. I trained the top 10 bodybuilders, male and female, in the country, and I'm very proud of that. We won every competition in the world that we took part in. So that was that incarnation. But during those things, and even going to university to do my first degree, I studied sex as a sideline. It wasn't my main course study. And there was so much information, there was so much thing to absorb and so much things to understand. But I'll tell you something, it's not only the theory, it was the practical part of it also.
What do you mean by that?
Being engaged in understanding, getting involved in things from a very young age, talking to adults who were serious about things that are sexual, not making a joke out of it, which I found was one of the things that was happening in society. People would joke around and they will give out a lot of false information. I remember one guy said at a time that he got a VD, in those days was VD, venereal disease, because he was sitting on a hot galvanized. He told his wife that. And the guys on the block were bouncing him and saying, yeah man, I had to tell she. And I was like, how do you get a disease from sitting on a hot galvanized? I was, I think, 11 or 12 years of age. And I started to read up on VDs. And I realized that it was pure BS. He just gave his wife that to hold, and she was like, yeah, okay, that's how you get it. Don't sit on no hot galvanized again.
There's a lot of taboo in our society.
Of course there is, because we come from a society that has a lot of church, temple, mosque, you name it, we have that. We come from a society that is conservative, but a little more liberal than the other societies in the Caribbean. We come from a diverse cultural background, so that also influences us. Although we have calypso and chutney and limbo dancing and all these things that are sensual and sexual, we still tend to be conservative. So I realized that there was a paradox. There was things that wasn't making sense in our society, and somebody had to break that barrier. Now, some of my favorite calypsonians from those days, I'll tell you, was like Crazy, Sparrow, Shorty. And when you listen to their words, you'll understand the meanings. So I'm a Trinidadian. I love being a Trinidadian. I'm a patriot. And I went away to study, but I always told my friends I will return home one day. I'm not here to stay. I don't want to stay in the United States. I don't want to live anywhere but Trinidad. And I remember my first class in my first year of university, there was something called human sexuality. Of course, that was the first course that I took. It was an elective. And I decided to go and study someone who was a stripper. And I went to a striptease joint. I mean, I was only 17, but in those days you could get away with a lot of things.
What area is this?
This is in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
There was a strip joint on 84. I went to Nova University, which is in Davie, the town of Davie, not Davie Boulevard, but the town of Davie. And I used to pass by this place all the time, and I said, let me go in there and see what it is all about. So I went there and I saw this young lady, and of course there must be some kind of chemistry or physical attraction for you to talk to someone. And I told her, I said, I want to study you. She said, for what? I said, for university. I'm in university, I'm at Nova, and I want to study you and your lifestyle and why you got into this. And she was a student also, but she was doing that to earn money. And I remember my final class presentation was she coming into the class and doing a striptease. Of course I got an A. And everybody was happy, and they were like, this guy's different. He doesn't think within the box. He thinks outside the box. Even my professor started to tell me that. My father always tell me that. He said, you don't think for today, you think for way ahead. And some people will never understand you. He didn't understand me sometimes. So came back to Trinidad, got married to my childhood sweetheart. We were together for 10 years. We got married in 1984, started Apollo Gym. And I always incorporate the business aspect of sex from a young age. Now, you may wonder why. Some people may think that things that are illegal or immoral should not be ventured into, but I'll tell you something. If I had studied things that way, I wouldn't be who I am today. I'll give you an example. I used to leave school in Sangre Grande, travel in a taxi, come to Port of Spain, go by a particular gentleman and buy X-rated books. Take it back to school and rent guys' page so they could go and fix themselves up, or they get the education that they wanted. And I realized it was a lucrative business. I got caught once, all my books were burnt. I faced the challenges. And it's the things that taught me a lot about human nature, life, things in general, my parents, my peers, all my classmates today will tell you that, well, my proper name is Giri Raj. They call me Giri. The things that they learned about sex was from Giri. He's the one who actually taught us in school and showed us certain things and whatnot. And that's how I blossomed. Came back to Trinidad, started the gym, still started to do what you call suitcase trading. Of course, it was illegal by the laws of the customs. So my file in customs is this thick, because many times my goods were seized, I had to take them to court. We won, of course, we won the final thing, and everybody could do it now. So I was pioneer in that area. When my reincarnation with the gym was something that I wanted to do, something that I wanted to prove to myself and to others that I could be successful in this. And I was very successful, and I thank God for that, because He gave me that blessing to help others, young men and women, to see their way to get out of the gang lifestyle and all these different things, and to focus on health and strength and those things. And it's something that I'm very proud of. I train part of the strike squad, cricketers, footballers, boxers, cyclists, you name it, I train them. When I got out of the gym business, I turned to my wife and I said, I want to start the sex business in Trinidad. And she was like, go ahead, it's what you do best. You have my blessings. And my two closest friends who I grew up with, I went to them and I said, if I start a sex business, how would you all feel about it? They say, well, that's who you are. We'll support you 100%. So I opened the first adult store on Arapita Avenue, corner Lewis and Arapita Avenue, opposite Vinimaj. I opened the first adult store there called Behind the Greendot in the 90s. And I blossomed from there. I went to Traggery Road, then I went to Bengal Street, and then I went where we are presently on 10 Carmody Street in St. Augustine. So that was my journey as far as that part was concerned, the business aspect and my education. But I continue to study, and I continue to realize that there was a need for a clinic to deal with sexual dysfunction, because there were so many persons suffering from some sort of sexual dysfunction, and there was no way to help them. So apart from doing my BSc and my MBA and whatnot, I did an MA, and then I went on to do a PhD. But during that transitional period, I got an offer to be on radio.
Right.
And that's where
you started to give me headache.
That's where my journey started, with education and information. My first thing on radio was to tell the audience, if I say anything that is misleading or false, come on air. Call me on air and say, I wasn't Dr. Raj, you're saying this and it's false. Prove it to me, and I come off the air. I was there for 25 years. I was offered by many other radio stations to go with them, and I told them, no, this is the station that took a chance on me, and I'm here to stay. I'm very loyal when it comes to certain things. I believe in that. I believe in loyalty. So I did that. When they came off free to air and they went online, I gave them 2 years of my life. And then I said, that's it, I'm done. I'm done.
So who is Dr. Raj? I heard the resume. I understand well who you were and what drives you. Dr. Raj 2.0, the one who's sitting before me today. 2.0. 2.0.
Like that.
Who is he and what does he want to achieve?
I am still the humble Sangre Grande Kunapo boy that I always was. My friends call me by my name. If you're my childhood friend, don't call me doctor. I tell them that. I am here to educate and inform. I'm not so much into the entertainment anymore. When I had the radio program, I had the Angels and I had all those different things because I realized the focus was different then. You had to captivate your audience. You had to do certain things. Now I want to give information because I have a wealth of information within myself. I have it here. I don't need a book to open to tell you things. I have it. And it's about time I share it with the world because my belief, which I got from my godfather, is that education is the only thing when divided is multiply.
Yeah, very interesting. But you do know that the teenagers and adults of today are not the adults and teenagers of yesteryear.
Of course I do.
With the influx of the mobile and all that they have at their disposal by way of music videos, YouTube, TikTok, you name it, they are influenced a lot more differently. This millennial group is a whole different kind of human being. I mean, I myself am a father of 3 girls, and often I have to push myself back and ask myself, how do I treat with these matters differently? How do I understand and still maintain their respect while engaging them on things? They ask me, I think my oldest or middle child asked me questions from primary school because they were going to a boys and girls school. And it shocked you that you had to answer those very vivid questions from such an early age.
Well, Dr. Raj 2.0 is to give you the tools to do that. You know. My journey has reached a point where I want to share my wealth of knowledge, my experiences, the things I'm learning constantly about things that are sexual, constantly. Someone comes to my clinic, they sit before me and I learn from them. Although I'm there to treat them, I learn from them. So if I can share that wealth of knowledge to the audience out there, whether it be parents or the teenagers, as you say, the millennials and whatnot, they will start opening up their minds differently. And they will realize that there's a lot of false information out there. There's a lot of misleading information out there. There are a lot of things that are not true to themselves because, again, culturally, where we come from, what is designed for the Western world may not fit into the Trinidad society. So they have to understand that. And once you start understanding that, you'll have a better relationship. You'll be able to talk to your child. You'll be able to talk to your peers. And you'll be able to understand things differently. So as you say, Dr. Raj 2.0 is to provide you with the tools to be able to do that in an effective manner. As a parent, as a friend, as a colleague, whoever it may be. I had one guy meet me at the mall 2 weeks ago. And he said, you know, I used to work at this factory making soft drinks. And I would listen to a program, and next day I'll go back and teach them, and they started to call me Dr. Raj. I said, well, that's great. He said, because I realized I learned a lot from you, and I was able to pass it on to others, and then they started to listen to the program also. So if we can accomplish that, if we are able to do that in some way to get that information out there, and take the taboo part of it out of sex education. I'm talking about sex education because you can't teach sex education in schools. You'll have a lot of pushback from the various national schools and from religion and whatnot. But you can't stop children from going on their smartphone, YouTube and other things to get information. You can't do that. Correct. Nobody could do that. So if we can create that information here and be able to do that and put it out there, and somebody up the island, Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, hey, well, I learning something from this guy, boy. I learning something from this program. I could tune into this television show and gain some knowledge. Isn't that what we want to do? We want to spread it, right?
Well, that's the mantra of WESN. That's the mantra of the 868. The 868 was specifically designed to deal with service providers. your service is sex education.
Correct.
And so we can't look at it from a taboo perspective. So I want to go back to the clinics. What if you were to take away the 5 top topics that come out of the clinics that you feel is pervading Trinidad and Tobago presently, what would they be?
Very easy. Penis enhancement. Everybody wants a bigger penis. Even the guy who has 11 inches of penis. Always everyone wants a bigger penis for some reason. Because they are under the false assumption that a bigger penis means better lovemaking, which is not true. Premature ejaculation. Ejaculating before you can satisfy yourself or your partner. Erectile dysfunction. Women not getting that intimacy from their partner where they get that foreplay to be ready for sex. Dryness of the vagina. Not connecting with your partner, not having the chemistry. So these are the things we deal with. Male, female, married couples, gay, straight, lesbian, you name it. I deal with it.
So you see where, let's go back to Watershed now.
Yeah.
And I know you know well what it is.
Of course.
For the viewing public, it is that area leading up to prime time, from morning to prime time, where manga viewing eyes are watching. Mm-hmm. The feeling is that the Watershed period should protect them from content that is not age appropriate. And so that is why Dr. Raj, in his previous radio shows, had a lot of nighttime programming where it was outside the reach of normal children's eyes. But as you talk to the 5 top topics there, how can you educate the public without raising alarm bells from the telecoms authority? Because they're always watching. They're very much...
I'm aware of that, and I think as a responsible adult who has matured a lot from those days, because I remember once we had a thing at Val Park, and I asked one of the guys, can you tell people what time to have sex? I mean, it was a back and forth, but I know they scrapped everything, they shelved it, and things moved very slowly after that. We have a responsibility to society, and there are ways and means of packaging anything for any audience. That's where you come in, your station comes in, other people comes in, and they will say, let's do it this way. And I will say, okay, these are the words we can use, these are the words we cannot use. So the wording has to be age appropriate. The timing has to be, if you're reaching the audience generally, that they must be able to get something out of it. And when you cross that watershed time and you go into a more adult time, we can ramp it up a bit. So whether it's recorded or, of course, if it's recorded, you can always edit to suit. If it's live, it's different. And you do have some persons in society who like to push the envelope. I remember those are 2 words that were used to me by one gentleman at the first radio station when I asked him, what do I do? He said, push the envelope as much as you can. And the second one was the great Sat Maharaj. When I went there, he asked me to do a program there. And I asked him, I said, boss, what should I do if somebody asks me a sexual question? And this was during the day. He said, give them the answer. That's why I brought you here. But of course, if I give them the answer, it would not be a 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock answer as opposed to 11 o'clock in the day answer.
You see, we are in this balancing pendulum where education is a priority, but we can't be naive to what the realities of this new generation of Trinbagonians are subject to.
Correct.
We can't be naive to what Carnival represents as our biggest global export.
Correct.
We can't be naive to the realities of what happens in our parties and our nightlife, what is happening even within our schools. And so I look forward to hearing 2.0, Dr. Raj, the person who is coming to educate us and speak to us on that level, the person who is going to tell us what we need to know, but in a palatable and tactful manner. I like this.
Yeah, it's important that we can, if we can do that, it's important that we reach the audience out there and we're able to tell them, well, you know, this is what it's like, this is how you should be doing. Give them the, I find when you give people information, they make the right decision. You're talking about Carnival and whatnot. We have something in Trinidad now called Trinidad music, right? I can't say I like it, I can't say I dislike it. There are some good ones, there are some bad ones, but the wording of it, if you listen to the wording and you have underage individuals singing these words, and it's like, okay, where are we heading? Now we had smut. You remember smut from the 70s? Smut calypsos. You had soca. We have, well, of course, calypso, chutney. We have all these things. No matter how you brand our music, how you brand our people and whatnot, we're always going to have that. If you go to something called a Matikor night in Trinidad, or the women go out and they sing sexually explicit songs to demonstrate what you're supposed to be doing on your wedding night. People don't even realize that. But it is part of the culture. It is part of our culture. Now, I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. I'm not here to judge that. I'm not saying whether we should be in skimpy bikinis or half naked on the street or fully clothed. That's up to the individual. That's your choice. And our culture is so dynamic. It has evolved over time. We created limbo. We don't talk about limbo anymore. But have you ever looked at how the women dress for limbo? There's nothing left to the imagination. You can practically say, well, this is what the person looks like naked. But it is part of our culture. Is it right or wrong? I can't say. What I can say is that I love limbo. What I can say, I love everything about Trini culture. I do. Steel pan, dantal beating, drum, whatever you call it, I like it. And I will participate in anything like that, maybe not in the way that I used to when I was younger, because I'm much more mature and I understand things differently, but I would never condemn it. What I would like to do is enhance it. I would like to contribute to society in such a way that anyone wants to get involved in those things will get involved with a positive mindset. So even if you are an artist singing Trinidad music, you will stop to think that, hey, I could put across this a little differently to let people think, and I don't have to be raw and vulgar. Because some of it, what I've heard, is very raw and vulgar. It's something that, as a sexologist, you'll realize that it's not appropriate for a young, immature mind to be hearing or participating in, because maturity with male and female is different. And if you are creating a genre of music that is going to tell you that these things are okay, you're going to behave in a particular way.
Dr. Raj, what's your age?
I'm 63 years of age.
63 years young.
Yes.
Years of wisdom behind you.
Yes.
And now seeking to educate the people ahead of you.
Yes. Those who are much younger, those who are coming up in life, and even those who are older, because a lot of older persons beyond my age, the generation before me who's still around, they were misinformed, grossly misinformed. I could tell you that because I have a lot of clients, I could tell you. And the things that they would consider to be the norm is not the norm. So we need to bridge that gap. We need to get that information out there, and this is why I am willing to work with anyone who wants to do that.
How do you continuously learn to be a sexologist?
By continuously reading all the things that it have out there, studying different societies and the changes that take place in those societies, looking at our society and all the trends and things that are happening here, and of course practical.
Where was this word coined?
Sexology was coined in 1999 because of the word andropause that came into our dictionary. Andropause is not male menopause. It is not male menopause. It is something that most men go through at the age of 39, where they start having sexual dysfunction. And they wanted to coin a term that will deal with those things, and sexology came about then.
So you, in your opinion, we could all keep learning.
All the time.
As relates to this taboo word that is called sex.
We could keep learning about everything. Spirituality. There are things that I talk about in Trinidad. Okay, there was once I went on the radio and we were talking about television was invented in Trinidad, and people told me I was mad. I said, go and research.
Yes.
Go and research and you'll see it's the truth.
It is the truth.
Yes, but again, I am a trivia fanatic. I love trivia. I like finding out things. I like knowing things, but I also like the research behind it. So when, again, it comes back to being a patriot. The beauty of Trinidad and Tobago is unbelievable, you know. This is God's country, right? Like how some people say, I'll give you one good example. When people say God is a Trini, when you think about that hurricane that passed between Trinidad and Tobago, you'll realize why people say that, why they coined that term, God is a Trini. What happened then and why it came about. And you need to read a book written by Amral Khan to understand that.
Dr. Raj, this conversation could go on till tonight.
I'm sure.
Because it's one of, when people actualize what are the most important things to them, their faith, family, somehow sex is always up there.
Yeah.
Right? The desire for the continuous betterment of, and ultimately the repeated action of.
Yes.
Which we know.
I'll stick up in there. Sex is the only thing that you can go over and over the same way and get a different result each time. Eh?
You see?
You know, they say if you try to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result, it don't happen. But sex, it does happen.
And so it is good to talk about it. It's good to talk about it in a positive way. It's a good way. I mean, when we formed WESN, we ultimately understood, it was during COVID, we understood well that people were locked in their homes together. So we immediately brought in a psychologist who could speak to you without you sitting on a couch and give you content that could give your mind the thoughts to ripple on the actions. We brought in a lawyer to make what is happening in Parliament and all these other places simplified. We understood well when we carved out WESN what we were trying to reach. The one tenet we always wanted to touch was what you endeavor and live. We wanted to do a man show. Other stations have done it. Not the way we would have wanted to do it, because we don't want stage things. We believe when you're watching it, it ought to be as real and resonate with you. And that's what you represent then, and ultimately in your evolved version, that's what you represent now. It's not to hurt people out there, and I feel that. It is to help people help themselves, help their relationships, and help the individuals grow. In many ways, it is similar to institutions like Lodge and all these things that are misunderstood and taboo out there, but ultimately are trying to help make people better. So if you were to look at Trinidad and Tobago now in your parting words to them and tell them what you want to achieve out of this 2.0 version of Dr. Raj, what would it be?
Simple. I want to be a catalyst for you to understand yourself, to become a better individual, for you to get the information, the education, the knowledge to, you know, there's a saying, man, know thyself. First of all, know yourself. Then you could understand others. And then maybe we wouldn't have a problem with racism. We wouldn't have a problem with gender discrimination. We wouldn't have a major problem with these things because you have a better understanding of yourself. One sexuality is a definition of yourself, but it's not a definition of another person. It's the same thing with your spirituality. Your spirituality is something that defines you. It should not define your friend, your neighbor, your cousin, no one, because it is your definition. So everyone has a different level of spirituality, they have a different level of education. It doesn't make one better than the other. It should help you to understand things differently and to be more positive about the way you do things. And I think positivity in our nation is what is needed today. We need a lot of positivity because people are taking social media and they're going down the wrong road. And I'm seeing that all the time because they want likes, but you cannot take the likes to your mother, father, your brother, your sister, your husband, your wife, and get a cup of tea. Likes don't buy you a single thing. And if you think that going out there and bashing someone or saying something negative about someone is what's going to make you a better person, you are misinformed.
So Trinidad and Tobago, this version of Dr. Raj is no longer the raw one. This version of Dr. Raj wants to help. Dr. Raj, through this conversation, has shown what a better Trinidad and Tobago could be, but albeit centered around the words SEX.
Yes.
And so I look forward to seeing you, sitting with you, or you doing it on your own, because that is another tenet of our society that needs nurturing, continuous nurturing. I kept echoing the words continuous learning. He has done it, Dr. Raj has done it. Will you do it? Folks, this has been the 868. I am your host, Darren Leasing. I didn't say it at the beginning, but you know who I am. And I always end by saying, the only way through, look, I've forgotten my phrase. The only way to the other side is through. Thank you for watching the 868. And Dr. Raj, thank you, Dr. Raj.
WESN